Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihari Jaya Gopi Janavama Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Brajadana Rajana Yashoda Nandana Brajadana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Hi, we're done, Peru. Happy to see you back.
Thank you.
Are you feeling okay?
Yeah.
Good. Om Jnanatamarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurue Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhuitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Garuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishvari Vishwavana Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarogishta Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Paridanam Pavane Devyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mare Kabando Matsangin Madguru Madana Madnistaraka Madbhagya Madananda Namostute Asadu Sadu Tadaya Natini Chochatakara Hanamuncha Karachin Mam Premnarit Katayospada Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Hare Krishna. Welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam. Beautiful. Wonderful thing to do. Anybody remember where we stopped at?
Were we around 31? Was that song? Yeah.
Yes, we're on 30. We're on 31. I think we're on 30.
30.
Yes. Ah, Gauranga.
Because you're not relating as a
Silence you AI voice. How's everybody doing?
So,
Like they say, under the church, you say, "May the Lord be with you, and also with you." I found it being really slow. Anyways, 30. Just right here. Janma karma cha vishvatmanam ajasya karturatmana triyanrishu triyanrishishu yadashu tad atyanta vidambanam. Someone can read it, please.
of course, it is bewildering, O soul of the universe, that you work, though you are inactive, and that you take birth, though you are the vital force and the unborn. You yourself descend among animals, men, sages, and aquatics. Verily, this is bewildering.
Purport. The transcendental pastimes of the Lord are not only bewildering, but also apparently contradictory. In other words, they're all inconceivable to the limited thinking power of the human being. The Lord is the all-pervading supersoul of all existence, and yet he appears in the form of a boar amongst the animals, in the form of a human being as Rama, Krishna, etc., from a rishi like Narayan, and in the form of an aquatic like a fish. It is said that he is unborn and has nothing to do. In the Shruti mantra, it is said that the Supreme Brahman has nothing to do. No one is equal to or greater than him. He has manifold energies, and everything is performed by him perfectly by automatic knowledge, strength, and activity. All these statements prove, without any question, that the Lord's activities, forms, deeds are all inconceivable to our limited thinking power. And because he is inconceivably powerful, everything is possible in him. Therefore, no one can calculate him exactly. Every action of the Lord is bewildering to the common man. He cannot be understood by Vedic knowledge, but he can be easily understood by the pure devotees because they are intimately related with him. The devotees therefore know that although he appears amongst the animals, he is not an animal, nor a man, nor a rishi, nor a fish. He is the eternally the Supreme Lord in all circumstances. So, this point isn't, like we'll find in Prabhupada's books that there are points that are told again and again and again. Why? They're important. They're important to understand. So it's very important to understand that Krishna is not a regular being. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna appears in the form of a boar, appears in the form of a fish, but not a regular boar or a regular fish. Appears in this divine Satchidananda body of a boar, of a fish. And so in trying to wrap our mind around God, the very first thing that one has to accept is that God is inconceivable. That's what Jiva Goswami says. Jiva Goswami explains that the very first thing to understand about Krishna is that Krishna is inconceivable. Then one can begin to understand what is Krishna. So why is Krishna inconceivable? Because he's unlimitedly powerful. He has unlimited potencies and potentials and energies. So when you accept that, then we can accept that Krishna came as a boar, as a fish. We can understand Krishna's pastimes. They're super mundane. They can go beyond the mundane laws of physics, the mundane laws of nature. Krishna's pastimes are not bound by that. So therefore, in understanding Krishna, we understand he is transcendental. And this is the nature of the divine energy. The devotee can experience that reality when he decides to practice Krishna consciousness seriously and spread Krishna consciousness. Daiviheshu Mahatmanas tumam parta daivim prakritim ashritaha vijnananya manaso gyata bhutitam avyayam. Krishna says, when you know that Krishna is eternal and absolute, when you know that fact, then you can enter into the divine energy. You can take shelter of that daivim prakriti, which is the miraculous world of Krishna consciousness, to the degree that we actually just say, I'm going to serve Krishna, and I'm going to make Krishna the goal of my life, and I'm going to surrender to Krishna. Then in that world, all the magic happens. That's when you make the magic happen, is that I'm surrendering to this point that I don't have other plans. I'm making Krishna my goal. And when we all come to that platform of Krishna is the goal, Krishna is the object of my life and my devotion, the goal of my life, then that's how our relationships also become magical. Text 31. Gyopya dade tvai kritiga sidam tvavid yate dashashru. I think it's a different meter. Gopya dade tvai triga gasidam tavad yate dashashu kalelan jana sambramaksham Vaktram neniya bhaya bhavanaya stitasya samam vimoha yati birapiyad bibeti. My dear Krishna, Yashoda took up a rope to bind you when you committed an offense, and your perturbed eyes overflooded with tears, which washed the mascara from your eyes, and you were afraid, though fear personified is afraid of you. This sight is bewildering to me. It's a very classic and famous verse. Prabhupada says, here's another explanation of the bewilderment created by the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the supreme in all circumstances, as already explained. Here is a specific example of the Lord's being the supreme and at the same time a plaything in the presence of a pure devotee. The Lord's pure devotee renders service unto the Lord out of unalloyed love only. And while discharging such devotional service, the pure devotee forgets the position of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord also accepts the loving service of his devotees more relishably when the service is rendered spontaneously out of pure affection, without anything for reverential admiration. Generally, the Lord is worshipped by the devotees in a reverential attitude. The Lord is meticulously pleased when the devotee, out of pure affection and love, considers the Lord to be less important than himself. The Lord's pastimes in the original abode of Goloka Vrindavan are exchanged in that spirit. The friends of Krishna consider him to be one of them. They do not consider him to be of reverential importance. The parents of the Lord, who are all pure devotees, consider him a child only. The Lord accepts the chastisements of the parents more cheerfully than the prayers of the Vedic hymns. Similarly, he accepts the reproaches of his fiancés more palatably than the Vedic hymns. When the Lord Krishna was present in the material world to manifest his eternal pastimes of the transcendental realm of Goloka Vrindavan, as an attraction for the people in general. He displayed a unique picture of subordination before his foster mother, Yashoda. So, point here is that Kunti's bewildered by this mood of Vrindavan Bhakti, and Prabhupada, being a Brajbasi himself, is pointing out that the real essence of devotional service is this Braj Bhakti. And that's our goal. And Lord Chaitanya, of course, says, I'm not so pleased with the rules and regulations of devotional service. I'm pleased with the devotional service rendered by the residents of Vrindavan in spontaneous love. And the common example given is, Madhavendra Puri being kind of the preceptor of this mood of Braj Bhakti. And Madhavendra Puri said, my dear Gayatri mantras, my dear prayers, my dear oblations, my dear rules and regulations, my dear rituals, I can't follow you anymore. I'm just too absorbed in the love and the devotion to the Supreme Lord Krishna, this little boy. So it's a very tall order when we think about it. How are we to attain such a stage? What is the process to attain such a stage, and what does it look like? Because I was just recently speaking to one devotee who is very, very advanced, and he's not so engaged in very much senior devotee association, but because of his dedication to sadhana and to chanting and to reading, he's very advanced in his life practices and his level of concentration on Krishna. But I was noticing that, he's kind of like delving into this kind of Raja Bhakti a little bit. And I was thinking, it doesn't seem safe. And there were some heavy consequences from that, heavy consequences that he was facing because he was not, he was doing things a little bit kooky in some ways, in regards to kind of the understanding of this level of devotional service. So it's just, and there's no fault in him, he's just a normal devotee, very good normal devotee with that. But the point is that we have to be very careful when it comes to this level of Krishna consciousness. And so we should understand properly what it is, what this Raganuga Bhakti is and what this Vaidhi Bhakti is. And I find it, just have to point that out, that I find it interesting that I'm giving this class. I'm about to speak what I've learned from my teachers in Mayapur. But the very first person to explain to me the word Raganuga Bhakti was Mridanga Prabhu. He's the very first person I asked, what is Raganuga Bhakti, Prabhu? So it's interesting dichotomy here that now I'm explaining it. He is the first person to explain it to me. Raganuga Bhakti, and I've said this many times, Raga means to have spontaneous love for an object of affection, and Anuga means to follow. So Raganuga Bhakti means following the footsteps of those who have spontaneous love and affection for Krishna. That means the residents of Vrindavan. So Raganuga Bhakti is Bhakti following the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan. But it should be noted that the word in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, that's the word. It's not different from a sadhana. It is a sadhana. It's a Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. And so it's not Ragatmika Bhakti. Who here knows that word Ragatmika? Ragatmika Bhakti is the Bhakti that is demonstrated by Mother Yashoda, by Radharani, by Nanda Maharaj, by the cowherd boys and the gopis. That's Ragatmika Bhakti. So Raganuga Bhakti is Bhakti following the footsteps of those who have Ragatmika Bhakti. And so it should be noted that some devotees have a misunderstanding, because what it explains in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is that in time the devotee begins to relate to Krishna in a particular mood and following the footsteps of the mood of a particular devotee in Vrindavan. Or like someone's attracted to the Madhurya Ras or the Sakya Ras, Vatsalya Ras, so forth. And they begin to render service in that mood, but that's not understood to be, what does that actually look like? It's not known. So the example we follow the example of the Goswamis in regards to this, that one practices regular Vaidhi sadhana, which is the rules and regulations of devotional service. But at a certain stage of purification and via the process of hearing, Srimad Bhagavatam, especially in the pastimes of Krishna, one develops a certain affinity for hearing a particular type of ras. This is a natural process. One develops that affinity at a certain stage of purification. Now, I'm really enjoying hearing the pastimes of Radha Krishna, the pastimes of Madhurya Ras, the pastimes of a certain holy place in Vrindavan, and that begins to manifest, and that person begins to want to spontaneously hear particular pastimes of the Lord and to chant particular pastimes of the Lord. And in that, they continually practice the same sadhana bhakti, perhaps to more intensity, but internally they begin to relate with the Lord in the way of raga. Internally, they begin to see the Lord in his pastimes in that particular rasa, and they begin to love the Lord in that particular rasa. They begin to have a loving exchange with the Lord in that particular rasa. So this is the process by which one develops that. But externally, it looks the same, and there's no example otherwise. For in our line of acharyas, we know for fact that Rupa Goswami is Rupa Manjari. We know Bhaktivinoda Thakur to be Kamala Manjari. We know these great devotees are residents of the spiritual world. So, but what did they look like externally? They were chanting Hare Krishna. They were taking prasadam. They were rendering devotional service. They looked like pure devotees, pure sadhana devotees, just like our Srila Prabhupada. They were on that level. Prabhupada was on their level, we should say, of continuously engaging in a certain particular service, in their case, writing, chanting Hare Krishna, and internally relishing the Lord's reciprocation. And even Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Also, when the devotees were present, the devotees from Bengal would come from Bharat Yatra every year, and they would come, and Lord Chaitanya would be very external. He would do kirtan, he would go to the temple, he would interact with them, take prasadam with them, he would do devotional activities with them. But internally, he was relishing a particular rasa. And then when they would leave, then he would mostly stay in the Gambhira all day long, all night long, chanting and, with Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy, relishing transcendental poetry about specifically the Radha Krishna Leela, because Lord Chaitanya is internally Radharani. And Lalita and Vishaka are present there with Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy. So it's not that one just, starts acting differently. Generally, the Raganuga Bhakta, he acts like a better devotee, better sadhana Bhakta. And so Prabhupada gives one purport, I'm trying to remember where, but Prabhupada says the real test of someone who has bhava isn't the tears in your eyes or the ecstatic dancing. These things are all external, but when you see that someone is continuously engaged in service, constantly engaged in service, we have this great example of Parmeshwar Das is one of the most focused devotees I've ever met in terms of, constantly reading, constantly chanting, constantly doing service, constantly reading, constantly chanting, constantly doing service. Even in sleep, he's always hearing Krishna's Leelas. You can understand this is a very high level person simply by that external, manifestation of not wavering from devotional service in any circumstances. So this is a sign. And it could be discouraging, how do I come to this level? But there's an example given in terms of the heart's purification. And once again, it comes down to our hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam gives these special verses, 1, 2, 16 through 22, the processes of bhakti, wherein there's very famous verses, Nasta Preshu, Bhadreshu, Nityam, Bhagavata Seva, Bhagavate Utamashloke, Bhakti Bhakti Naishtaki. By rendering service to great devotees and by regularly hearing Bhagavatam, the heart becomes cleansed. And there's the famous Srimata Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. These famous verses go on. But it's described that the stage of bhava manifests when one is coming to the pure mode of goodness. So someone can come to the pure mode of goodness, that's when the bhava actually really begins. And that's characterized by this verse. Evam prasana manaso bhagavad bhakti yogata bhagavat tattva vigyana Mukta Sangasya Jayate, that Evam Prasana Manaso, the mind becomes enlivened by contact with his devotional service. The mind is becoming enlivened. Just by the devotional service itself, the mind is becoming very enthused. And Bhagavat Bhakti Yoga, by performing Bhakti Yoga, Bhagavat Tattva Vigyana, one has scientific knowledge of the absolute truth. And in that stage, Mukta Sangasya Jayate, he's completely liberated from all material contamination. Previous to that, we hear about the preliminary stage of purification. Tada rajastamo bhava, kama loba rayaschaye, that the rajas, the tamas, the kama, and the loba, they're removed by the process of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Kama loba rayaschaye. Cheta etir navidam, Stitam sattve prasidati. Cheta etir navidam, the mind becomes cleansed. Stita sattve prasidati, and that person becomes happily situated in the mode of goodness. So the real secret is come again to like, how do we develop that? We hear Bhagavatam. We hear Bhagavatam. We just constantly engage in hearing Krishna Katha and chanting Hare Krishna nicely and rendering service nicely in the proper mood. And then all these things come naturally. Then we can not be bewildered. Then we can understand how to love Krishna for who he is and not just what he is. Any other points on there?
My answer on my question.
Let's go to 32. Kechirahurajam jatam punya shlokasya kirtaye yano priyas yananwan. That's a weird one, huh? Yes, yan vavaye malas yasyeva jandanam. Some say that the unborn is born for the glorification of pious kings, and others say that he is born to please King Yadu, one of your dearest devotees. You appear in his family as sandalwood appears in the Malaya Hill. Someone can take some purport.
Because the Lord's appearance in this material world is bewildering, there are different opinions about the birth of the unborn. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that he takes his birth in the material world, although he is the Lord of all creations and he is unborn. So there cannot be any denial of the birth of the unborn, because he himself establishes the truth. But still there are different opinions as to why he takes his birth. That is also declared in the Bhagavad Gita. He appears by his own internal potency to reestablish the principles of religion and to protect the pious and annihilate the impious. That is the mission of the appearance of the unborn. Still, it is said that the Lord is there to glorify the pious King Yudhishthira. Lord Shri Krishna certainly wanted to establish the kingdom of the Pandavas for the good of all in the world. When there is a pious king ruling over the world, the people are happy. When the ruler is impious, the people are unhappy. In the age of Kali, in most cases, the rulers are impious, and therefore the citizens are also continuously unhappy. But in the case of democracy, the impious citizens themselves elect a representative to rule over them, and therefore they cannot blame anyone for their unhappiness. Maharaja Nala was also celebrated as a great pious king, but he had no connection with Lord Vishnu. Therefore, Maharaj Yudhishthira is meant here to be glorified by Lord Vishnu. The Lord had already glorified King Yadu by having taken birth in his family. Although he is known as Yadava, Yadavira, Yadanandana, etc., he is always independent of such obligation. He is just like the sandalwood that grows in the Malaya hills. Trees can grow anywhere and everywhere, yet because the sandalwood trees grow mostly in the area of the Malaya hills, the name sandalwood and the Malaya hills are interrelated. Therefore, the conclusion is that the Lord is ever unborn with the sun, yet he appears as the sun rises on the eastern horizon. As the sun is never the sun of the eastern horizon, so the Lord is known Son, but he is the Father of everything that be.
Hi. So yeah, Krishna glorifies his devotees. We should strive to be the devotee that Krishna wants to glorify, because Krishna is giving us an opportunity to do service. We could be glorified by the fact that Krishna is empowering us to do service. And we taste that glorification when we get the approval of our spiritual master. Oh, you've rendered nice service. That's the greatest feeling in the world. Oh, you've done a nice job here. Thank you for this service. To have the understanding that the Guru, the Vaishnavas are pleased, the Guru is pleased, and you're doing very nicely. And it's simple, actually. We should think, devotees should give pleasure to other devotees by their personality. And so we see that a devotee who's well liked, that devotee is, actually giving pleasure to Krishna. And so it's just natural that you'll feel happy. But if you become offensive, you become otherwise, then in time you will lose taste for Krishna consciousness. And your chanting will be less good. Your enthusiasm will slacken. So it takes initiative It's always good, like my Guru Maharaj always says this, and it's true, you can either be a leader or you can be a follower of a good leader. But you have to be one of the two. But if you just think, oh, I'm chanting my rounds and doing this and that, but I'm not actually participating in that mission of the good leader who has an idea, like let me serve Krishna this way, then you're on your own. And we hear Yasya Prasada, Bhagavat Prasado, Yasya Prasada, Nagati Kuntopi, destination unknown for those who are not pleasing the spiritual master. So the spiritual master is doing nicely. Let me just get behind him. Let me serve his mission. We see a god brother or another devotee doing nicely. Let me jump on the boat with them and serve with them, and in this way participate in the divine Leela. It's all participatory. It's actually the beauty of Lord Chaitanya is letting us participate in his world by the Sankirtan movement. And so when we jump on board another devotee's devotional service, it's very powerful. Or when we take up, it's always jumping on board. Whether no matter how high the leader is, he's jumping on board someone else's. Think about Srila Prabhupada had so many god brothers, and all his god brothers said Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada told all of his preachers, preach in the Western world, preach. But Prabhupada did it. That's it. Prabhupada did it. And so Prabhupada jumped on and participated in his guru's Leela. And that's why they're completely interconnected. And that's why, we see the picture, who's our Prabhupada? We see, every day we see Prabhupada up there. Prabhupada will be there forever. He's an acharya because he became dedicated to the mission of the previous acharya. This is the process. So if we think, I'm going back to Godhead, you may go back to Godhead. How much love is there? How much taste will you really get? Like, I'm good. Yeah. How much love is there? Love means, some sacrifice, some initiative. So devotees should all realize and realize their leaders, realize like this is important. Like Prabhupada realized how important it was. Bhaktisiddhanta said, you're a young, educated man. Preach. And Prabhupada realized right there the importance of this. And he gave up his, Gandhian consciousness. And he began to become a serious devotee. And he eventually became initiated. And he spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. And there are so many examples of Prabhupada inspiring devotees to realize that same truth, that I'm going to take up the mission of my spiritual master, and in this way, spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, become a great devotee. And so it is a participation game. You have to jump in the game to be part of. Krishna will help you. If you decide I want to do some service, Krishna will help you. But if you decide I don't want to do service, I want to just do my own thing, then Krishna will help you do that too. And it's okay, but we should understand that the more we want to have reciprocation from Krishna, the more we have to surrender and have that desire, at least, that I'm going to do something significant for Krishna. I want to do something big for Krishna. Why not? Krishna is signing all the checks. Lord Chaitanya is signing all the checks. So why should we think that there's not enough? I wear this bracelet that says, assume it could be done. Oh no, it's here. Assume it could be done. Vaisheshika Prabhu gave this to me. I remember the first time I saw Vaisheshika Prabhu. No, it's not the first time I saw him, but it was like the first time I really was close to him. He just walked in the room and he was just like so effulgent and powerful. I was like, whoa, this is not a normal devotee. This is in Mayapur, and I was just thinking, this is not a normal devotee. Like, this is so much Shakti coming off this man. I've never seen anything like it. And I just saw that he had like a keychain. It just said, assume it could be done. And I was thinking, like, this is so cool. He's like a superhuman, like, he's just like doing amazing things, just amazing devotee. And he has it, why he wears this, he says, Lord Chaitanya is signing all the checks. Like, assume it could be done because Lord Chaitanya is behind me. We can know Lord Chaitanya is behind us when we know that we're doing what our spiritual master wants and we're making a sacrifice. And so it's one thing, first class disciple, He anticipates what the spiritual master wants. He knows what really pleases the spiritual master, and so therefore he does like that. Second class disciple, he's asked by the spiritual master to do something, or he's working with the spiritual master. Okay, what's best for you? Do. Third class disciple is the spiritual master says something, and then I do the opposite. So we want to strive to be a first class disciple. That I know this is going to please my guru. I know what's going to please me. I know what's going to please my guru. The guru is going to never really, at least my guru, I can say that at least. My guru never, he's told me this personally about, I don't, like a disciple should want to do something. If they don't want to do it, I'm not going to push them to. And so, we could think like that. Alrighty, 34. Right? No, 33. 33. Apare vasudevasya devakyam yachito bhyagat ajastvamasya kshemaya varaya cha shuradvisham. Others say that since both Vasudev and Devaki prayed for you, you have taken your birth as their son. Undoubtedly, you are unborn, yet you take your birth for their welfare and to kill those who are envious of the demigods. It is also said that Vasudeva and Devaki in their previous births as Sutapa and Prishni underwent a severe type of penance to get the Lord as their son. And as a result of such austerities, the Lord appeared as their son. It was already declared in Bhagavad Gita that the Lord appears for the welfare of all people of the world and to vanquish the asuras of the materialistic atheists. So it's one of those really cool things to learn that there are people who have the Lord as their son. And, it is a genuine desire. Yes, Prabhu.
I have a question about dynasties because here in the West we don't have experience of such thing as a dynasty which reaches back generation and generation of rulers,
Yeah.
ruling. So I was wondering if you could delineate between, we know the Pandavas are sons of Pandu, but the Yadavas, and then there's the Kaurava dynasty. And these things, the Kauravas, sometimes referred to as both the Yadava dynasty and it's confusing to me a little bit.
Well, what it is the Kauravas are usually not called the Yadavas. The Kauravas are called the Pandavas also.
Okay.
Because the Pandavas and the Kauravas are the same dynasty. The only reason the Pandavas are called the Pandavas is to distinguish them as being enemies of what we call the Kauravas, but they're all the sons of Kuru. Because the Pandavas and the Kauravas are first cousins.
Okay,
they're related.
Okay. Yeah,
so they're all in the same dynasty, and that's why, Maharaj Parikshit is the last of the Kuru dynasty. So the Kuru dynasty is the Pandavas, but the Pandavas are just the sons of Pandu in the Kaurava dynasty. And that's actually described by Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur in the Bhagavad Gita. When the Bhagavad Gita starts off, he says, what did my sons, the Kurus and the sons of Pandu? And he made that distinction that they're not Kurus, even though they are Kurus, and they're the rightful Kuru, lords of the Kuru dynasty. So Dhritarashtra was making that distinction, cutting them out of the family. But they are essentially all Kurus. And the Yadava dynasty are the descendants of King Yadu, coming from the Soma dynasty. And you hear about the Soma dynasty basically in the 9th canto, how the Soma dynasty came into being, and you hear about King Yadu, and you hear all of the whole lineage up to Lord Krishna. And the Yadu dynasty consists of like other families. And what used to confuse me is there's the Bhojas, there's the Vrishnis, but they're all under the jurisdiction of the Yadavas. There are like many families within the Yadava, the larger Yadava dynasty.
So can one define the word Yadava? Can one actually give a definition for the word Yadava besides descendant of the Yadu family?
As far as I know, descendant of the Yadu family, that's the Yadava dynasty. The Yadu dynasty is the descendant.
So that's in the 9th canto.
Yeah, the 9th canto discusses the Soma dynasty coming from Somadev.
Does that have anything to do with the moon or the sun?
The moon, yeah.
Yeah.
Krishna comes in the moon dynasty, and Rama comes in the sun dynasty. And actually, each incarnation of the Lord appears in a certain particular planetary dynasty. Like Lord Nrsingadev comes in the planetary dynasty of Kartikeya, which is Mars. Each Each incarnation of the Lord comes in a planetary dynasty.
And is that sun or moon, Kartikeya?
Kartikeya is not the sun or the moon, it's Mars.
Oh, Mars.
Yeah. One of the planetary dynasties. Yes, Prabhu.
I'm just a little confused by that one because Nisina Dev isn't exactly
The
born.
pillar was born from Mars. No, I don't know. That's what I said. That's what I was told by a very elevated devotee.
Okay.
That's what I was told.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, it was very
Kartikeya
elevated.
is the son of Lord Shiva.
Yeah,
How many sons does Lord Shiva have?
two that I know of.
Ganesh.
Ganesh and Kartikeya. Kartikeya being the firstborn, Ganesh being the secondborn. Yeah. Serious, that's what I was told.
Some words.
Well, it takes Westerners a while to assimilate this kind of stuff because Indians, a lot of them already sort of know.
Yeah, they all know it's all there.
But for us, it's something very exotic, you know.
Yeah, it's totally crazy how Krishna gives us the intelligence to assimilate it. I'm amazed by that because I remember when I first got the Krishna book, I read the Bhagavad Gita and I was like, cool. And someone gave me the Krishna book. I was like, cool, Krishna's life. And I remember reading, okay. And then it was like Putana, and I was like 12 miles. I remember I was like 12 miles. And I was like, I called this devotee. I was like, 12 miles? He's like, 12 miles. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to accept that and put that on the back burner for now. But actually, the mind can't understand Krishna. That's the point. It's very difficult to understand Krishna. Krishna has to unlock this mind. Bhakti mama vijananti yavanyasyasmi tatvata tatamam tatvato gyatas vishate tadanantaram. I can only be understood as I am as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by devotional service. When one is thus purified by such devotional service, one can enter into the kingdom of God. So you can't understand Krishna's pastimes, all of these things without this devotional service. What's the verse? Atashri Krishna Namadi Nabhaved Graham Indriyayi Sevam Mukhe Hijivadav Swayameva Svarat Yadaha. Atashri Krishna Namadi, Nam-adi, Krishna's name, form, pastimes, qualities, activities, associates, they're not understood. Nabhaved Graham Indriyayi, they're not understood by the senses. But Sevam Mukhe Hijivadav, but when one renders service with the tongue, Jivadav, when one renders service beginning with the tongue, by chanting Hare Krishna and taking Krishna Prasadam, Swayameva Sparat Yadaha, then everything can be understood in due course of time. Everything is understood in that way. So when we act on that capacity of rendering service with the tongue, chanting Hare Krishna, then we actually unlock the ability to understand these pastimes and to conceive the personality of Godhead. And I always find it, there's so many miracles Krishna does. Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill. Krishna does all these things. But when I preach, Krishna consciousness, and I meet people who are atheistic, I met literal atheists, agnostics, logical, rational people, and you take them from there to accepting a blue cowherd boy as the supreme source and summum bonum of everything. That's a miraculous thing. What kind of person would listen to you? But somehow people listen to you. Krishna's in their heart. He's actually giving them some faith to understand this stuff. Otherwise, how can they possibly accept this stuff? But it does work. It's real because they're being purified by your sincerity and by the words you're speaking in Krishna consciousness. They become purified and they accept, okay, Krishna is God. And, it starts off, I remember reading Bhagavad Gita and, looking at the cover and just thinking, I remember thinking, that's God, interesting. I thought he's wearing a flower garland in a battlefield. That's what people wear on vacation. That just blew me away. I just thought, wow, God is so relaxed that he's wearing a flower garland in the middle of the worst battle ever fought in the history of the world. And that was just amazing to me. And reading Bhagavad Gita, it's just all sensible, logical. You're not this body, the soul's eternal, logical, this universal form, so logical. Then it's like, okay, I can accept the person who spoke this is God. Then it's like, and he plays the flute and likes cows, okay. And he hangs out with girls in the middle of the night. And he doesn't, and it's like he's pooping on the floor of the gopis, and he's trying to, it's just, what is this? And then all of a sudden it's just, okay, yeah, Krishna's God. And it makes total sense. And you've accepted it. But that takes a special mercy from the pure devotee. And it actually is the amazing potency of Srila Prabhupada and all of the acharyas that we can actually come in contact with this divine energy. And Krishna gives us, he gives us the whole, most confidential knowledge. He explains it. Abhajananti ma muda manusim tanuma shritaha param bhava majananto gyata bhutitamavyayam or mama bhuta maheshwaram. That fools drive me when I descend in this human form because they don't know my transcendental nature as the supreme Lord of all that be. So they're deriding Krishna when he comes into the human form. They don't understand that he's the supreme Lord of all that be. Maya dakshina prakriti suyate sacharacharam hetunanena konteya jagat vipa vivartate. This entire cosmic manifestation is under me, moving, creating, and maintaining both moving and non-moving beings. So everything is working under Krishna. But the fools can't understand this. And therefore, mogashya moga karmano moga jnana vachetasaha rakshashishim masharim chaiva mohinim prakritim shrita. Therefore, mogashya moga karmano, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated because they take shelter of demoniac and atheistic views. What are those demoniac and atheistic views? The impersonalist views and the atheistic views. God's not a person, God's just energy. They take shelter of these views to give them solace, and therefore they cannot understand. And what happens is their fruitive activities are destroyed. They're unsuccessful in life. Their culture of knowledge is destroyed. They're unsuccessful. And their hopes for liberation are destroyed. They don't get liberated. And we see that time and time again. If you become a devotee, you realize it. When you see people who are very intelligent come to the temple, very logical, they have all this information and they have all this understanding. They can think, I'm not this body. They can think all of these things, but they don't have a heart. They don't have a heart. And they struggle like anything to control their senses because they don't have a heart full of love for Krishna. Even the most hardcore, ruffian, brutish devotee we find has a heart for Krishna. He does. They do. They have a heart for Krishna. And even the new bhakta can understand what these impersonalists spend lifetimes they can't understand. Because these devotees have had that special mercy where they can understand, and therefore they at least know that everything's about love. And we don't always, we're all kind of broken, dented cans, so we may express that love in different ways. We may be a little bit cold. We may not have the same ability to express it the same way. We may have material attackings, whatever. And so devotees may not be able to always, Jai Hari Bol. They may not be, apparently, like looking like they're from this photo yet, but they understand and they know, like Vritrasura wasn't, picturesque, perfect devotee, but inside he was a pure devotee. He knew that it was about love for Krishna. But he was having to suffer so many bodily and mental challenges. So the devotees understand that, and therefore Krishna says, famous verse, one of my favorite verses in Bhagavad Gita, the heart of Bhagavad Gita, Mahatmanas tumam parta, daivim prakriti mashritaha, bhajantyananya manaso, gyata bhutitamavyayam. Bhajantyananya manaso. They understand, they worship Krishna with their whole mind, because they understand he's the supreme Lord of all that be, absolute and inexhaustible. And therefore they engage in the process of Sankirtan, Satatam Kirtayantamam, Yatam Tashdrijavrataha, Namashantashtamam Bhakta, Nitya Yukta Upashyate. They're always chanting his glories. They're determined to serve him, and they're bowing down before him with devotion. Such a person's always connected with Krishna. And so those devotees understand Krishna. Those devotees understand Krishna. They can actually go into Krishna consciousness. But the impersonalists, what hope is there? To understand, so we can accept that Krishna is the lifter of Govardhan Hill, and that he, is the builder of Dwarka, and that God is all of these things. We can accept that, but the non-devotees can't. And we understand, we get this mercy from the Vaishnavas. And so, Mahaprasade Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaishnave Swalapunyam Vitam Rajam Vishvasanaya Vijayate, that, only very pious and special souls can understand the glories of Mahaprasadam, the Vaishnavas, and Sri Govinda. So it's special. It's very special mercy that Prabhupada is giving us the opportunity to understand Krishna. And that's why these books are not normal books. I was at the sauna today. I met some guy who was he was talking about meditation. He decided he was going to reveal his mind to me. It was a nightmare. Like he was like, no, I can't repeat. I really can't repeat what he was asking me. Like he was asking me some of the grossest material things imaginable. I was embarrassed. He was saying them, there's women in the sauna. He was saying the most gross imaginable things. It was so disgusting. Serious. Disgusting. And I was like, I don't think I can help you, man. I'm a monk. I've been celibate for years, man. I don't think I can help. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to say that, but they can't understand. Bogashvaya prashaktanam te aparita chetasam vivasyatmika buddhi samudavadidiyate. And the minds of those who are too attached to opulence and material sense gratification, the resolute determination to perform devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. O son of Kunti. It doesn't take place. It was crazy. The girls were walking out. That's how bad it was. Like they were getting up and leaving. Like anybody who didn't have headphones on got up and left. It was that crazy. I was like, dude, like.
This is meditation?
Well, I was just, he was like, we were talking about a spiritual thing, and then it's like, I'm having a problem. I was like, yeah, hit me with it. I'd love to help. It's like, I can't help you, man. I told him, I said, I think you should just give it up. So I told him, I said, I think you should just get married, man. I don't think you're struggling. So anyways, what can you do for such people? But, the point is that I know like the person who gave me a book originally was not a devotee yet. They had just got a book and they had just given me a book. They were like Maha Papa. They were like Maha sinful at that. No, they were seriously Maha sinful. Like they were breaking every regulative principle to like the highest possible degree. I'm serious. They were every regulative principle to the highest degree, like just like eating meat, like not just eating meat, just eating a lot of meat. Like Maha meat eating, Maha illicit sex, Maha intoxication, like every intoxicant, like cocaine, like alcohol, smoking, everything, just full level materialism to the highest degree, obsessed with money, hated God type person. I got a book, and that person also read that book, and just reading that book literally changed their life, changed everything for them. Now they're vegetarian, they chant Hare Krishna, they don't do any of these things. And so really it is that powerful, that Prabhupada's words are so powerful, because the simple thing, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says that a man who knows about Krishna is better than 1,000 other men. Even if he doesn't do anything else, just because he knows about Krishna, he's better than 1,000 other men. So that's why we have to give respect to anybody who chants Hare Krishna. Even, our favorite weird impersonalist, meat eater chanters of Hare Krishna that are out there in this town. We have to, at least be respectful to them, because somehow or another they're chanting Hare Krishna. They know about Krishna, and therefore, they're better than those who don't know about Krishna. So Prabhupada's books are that powerful. And that's why all of these, speaking of Kunti, I'm bewildered by the fact that, Krishna is being tied up by his mother. It's just like that one time me and Gaurasundar Prabhu were out distributing books, and the Christian guy, our favorite, he's hired by Krishna actually to give us, Krishna hires these Christians, I think, sometimes to come and give us trouble. And he was saying, Krishna's not God, Krishna steals butter. Krishna's not God, Krishna steals butter. And I was seriously kidding. He's chanting like that, following us around in the kirtan. And we're thinking, what is this guy, He's actually chanting Krishna's pastimes, It's like, he's meditating on Krishna. We've got him. The Sankirtan's got him meditating on Krishna. So the power of devotees is uncanny. One time I was also sana. I was chanting japa. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama. And some Christian guy felt inspired to one up me. And so he starts going like, Lord Jesus Christ. And he starts praying out loud about, start doing these intense prayers to Jesus. And I'm thinking, well, good for you, man. I'm glad I got you thinking about Jesus, because what you were talking about before certainly wasn't Jesus. So, this is the power of a devotee, actually. The holy name is purifying him so much. Now he's fervently praying to Jesus, for like, who prays to Jesus for like maybe monks and, very special Christians, but this guy certainly wasn't that type. But now he's, really praying to Jesus. So you see that the devotees are so powerful. Krishna is there. And so it is a special thing to accept Krishna consciousness. And all of us who became devotees went through that experience of, perhaps, I had an atheistic phase. And then I kind of believed God was energy. And I believe we're all God. I went through all these phases, and then going through the phase of like, okay, maybe Krishna's God. But, the power of prasadam and the power of devotional service is such that you can accept Krishna's position as God. And you don't know when it happens. When all of a sudden it's just like, he's real. And I have no doubt about it. And there's nothing that can change that. And so, yeah, that's why, if you understand that and we meditate on that, we really can think, how special are devotees, how special are devotees. That they understand this. Any person who can just understand that. And Krishna makes that point because, we begin our preaching, we sell philosophy. Most of the time, people are being converted to Krishna consciousness through philosophy. And the philosophy is all sensible and logical. You're not this body. Prabhupada's preaching is, you listen to Prabhupada's classes, class after class after class. Prabhupada is, right, left, kick. It's just the same program. X, Y, X, Y, X, Y, it's just the same program Prabhupada's hitting people with, but it's working. So why is it? What is it that makes them accept Krishna? And they start chanting. Prabhupada gives them chanting. But there's something that happens, that Krishna gives them that mercy, and then they can understand and accept Krishna is the supreme absolute truth, the supreme person, the most beautiful person. And they develop love for Krishna. And so everybody who knows that, they're special people. And, it's quite amazing. It's really quite amazing that is available to the living entity to understand this reality. And that's the shift. That changes the way you interact with other people. And it really changes everything for you. It changes the whole universe. And so that's just, we have to realize, we got some seriously special mercy from Krishna to have this understanding and to have contact with Krishna consciousness. So that was the answer to your question, long answer, your question, whichever one. The Yadu, just because it's like it is kind of bewildering for a Westerner. You have the Yadu dynasty, and then you find out, it's so crazy. They're shooting nuclear bombs out of their bows and arrows, and it's like, what? How are we to accept all this?
Another bewildering aspect is that I find how powerful the Hankar is in each and every living entity. Like, even though we hear it over and over that we're not these bodies, still we're identifying on some level with an identity that's actually not, fully spiritual and not a pure self.
It's so difficult. It's true. It's very difficult to overcome the false ego. And, there's the inflated false ego and there's the deflated false ego. There's I'm the greatest and I'm the worst. It's both false ego. And so, Prabhupada, I was hearing Prabhupada lecture just recently. Prabhupada was saying, it's like in the dream, the tiger is coming.
Asking an intoxicated person to not be intoxicated. He's already intoxicated. How can he, overcome that intoxication, that chemical imbalance? He can't. It's like, how do you tell someone, okay, give up your false ego, or, when they're already contaminated by thinking that they're in the spot?
Yeah. Well, there's a process, because it's one of those things that it's not very well understood by devotees, and devotees often, it's a misunderstood thing a lot of the time, because we may know as devotees that I'm not this body, and we may really want Krishna and know that I want Krishna, but Krishna says the lust is forcing us to act a certain way. And so there's an element where one can perform, the dovetailing process or karma yoga. Let me act in the world. Let me do something in the world because I'm being forced to do it by my nature. But if we do that action in Krishna consciousness, in karma yoga, karma mishra bhakti specifically, addition to chanting Hare Krishna, we offer that varnashram duty, that household life, that job, that propensity in Krishna's service, then we become purified of it. And so then there's different levels of karma yoga. There's karma kanda, karma, sakam karma yoga, nishkam karma yoga, and then there's a higher type of nishkam karma yoga. And so sakam karma yoga means I'm doing karma yoga, but I'm attached to the results. Nishkam karma yoga, which is what's spoken about in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, means I'm doing karma yoga, but I'm not attached to the results, but I'm attached to the work. And the higher level of karma yoga is like we hear about King Janak, and we hear about, even Arjuna, where they're doing, in a sense, karma yoga. They're acting according to their position, but they're not even attached to the work. They're just attached to Krishna. And so that's the liberated stage. And Krishna recommends that great kings such as Janak perfected their lives simply by performing prescribed duties. So therefore, the main and the primary thing we do is we come to the mode of goodness. Okay. That's like the basic. We think that for us, it's a great accomplishment. I'm following 4 regulative principles. I'm not having illicit sex. I'm not intoxicating. I'm not, gambling. I'm not eating animals. And so therefore, a devotee tries to work, some job or do something kind of in the mode of goodness. You're not going to work at the slaughterhouse or work at the bar, And so they take up some work, not perfect. No work is perfect. Every endeavor is covered by smoke, right? Just as fire is covered by smoke, every endeavor is covered by some fault. So they work at the Walmart, they work wherever, they do some work. And they raise their family, they do whatever. This cannot be considered the stage of, pure Shravanam, Kirtanam, so forth. But the thing is by performing that duty, offering the fruits to Krishna, becoming detached from those fruits and gradually becoming attached to Krishna, one, even in that position, becomes enlightened and gains transcendental knowledge. And then at a certain stage, that person is able to fully engage in the process of hearing, chanting, remembering Krishna exclusively. And that's the stage of pure devotional service. And so the verse that's given, Prabhupada recommends that even if one is still engaged in the world, if they simply chant Hare Krishna, they're going to go way far. That's going to increase that just doing my duty. And so Krishna says, just perform your work. Remember me in the form of Krishna. I'll purify you. You'll come to me. And so, giving up that, we can't just say, we can't ask someone who's not meant to be a sannyasi to be a sannyasi. You can't do that. You can't ask someone who's not meant to be a warrior to be a warrior. They're still going to be what they are. And so they should be encouraged to work in the spirit of devotion, Krishna says. They should be encouraged to work in the spirit of devotion. And in this way, they become purified. But if you can give them that mode of goodness, and you can give them this kind of potential to become attached to Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna, if you can get them to chant Hare Krishna, love the devotees, take prasadam, when they become attached to Krishna, that's it. They're on their way. They can't stop. They're going to go back to Godhead eventually. It's happening. You can't reverse the process of Krishna consciousness. You are in it to win it. And you can either win it in this life or you can win it in the next life. But it's like we say, Vyasaki Prabhu always says, the reason you're here is because you failed in your last life. So it's already a reason not to be puffed up. Like we wouldn't be here if we didn't not do it right. So let's do it right this time. Let's not make the same mistakes twice. So it kind of gets us to be serious. So anyways, we can stop here.
How does this kitchen close?
8:00. You're good. We're going to get some prasad.